Okay. Well, do your thing.
You once lived your life in the throes of media empire. You worshipped at the altar of Workinonit. But as you know, the gods change hands every few hundreds of years. And today seems like a good a day as any to announce that you worship a new god. The god that is pig iron. That's the name of the podcast. Not really anything else is going to change. Our focus will still be the same. And as always, the intro to our podcast will just be this sort of grating, grinding metal noise that then. Hello, everybody. My name's Michelle Perez, and we are on the Working on It podcast no longer. This is the Pig Iron podcast. As always, I'm joined by buddies. This is a world of buddies. We have the buddy Ruben. We have the buddy Jake McCune. We have the buddy Eliza Gager and a guest buddy, someone we are sort of bringing on in terms of helping on the pod, and we're going to be doing bigger and cooler things in the near future. Want to welcome Lucy. Hello, Lucy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. You're just like, you literally got introduced as this, like, maybe she should sit in on at least one of these, just for funsies. To that end, today's a little bit different, but still within our wheelhouse. I kind of wanted to ask everyone a question for the opening today. Obviously, Ruben's going to have words on this, but any of you guys camp during your adolescence or teen years?
You want me to start on this? It's like
no, man, explicitly not you.
Oh, I'm coming in. In, dodging.
All right. Generally, dog. Like you're camping.
Actually, my adolescent camping was a lot of turbo bullshit. Didn't really accomplish much. Did some backyard tent work. I assume that was a test of like a really big canvas tent. I remember it being, and how to shit in a bucket. And following that was
hold on.
Yeah.
Wait, why would you shit in a bucket?
Yeah. I was about to say.
Listen, we were doing a full simulation. It was a full simulation backyard camping experience.
Does the simulation require a bucket?
What's the
simulation? Yeah, because if you have to know if you'll go in the wild in the moment at 3 a.m. Will you hold it in or will you shit in the bucket?
Going inside means you lose, I guess.
There was some kind of context of like, will the kids actually go camping? And I think they wanted to try and see if people would sleep outside. I feel like that it was purposefully something like that.
That's okay. Are you in like a church basement or something? What possible reason could you have to shit in a bucket while you're camping?
No, you're outside and you're
I guess if it's your back
on the floor.
Hold on.
You don't want to shit on any floor.
You're blowing Ruben's mind right now.
I was under 12 years old. I was an adolescent. I wasn't in charge of the fucking situation. I just know we had to camp. And there was a optional bucket to not have to run through the dark. They can go to the bathroom in. I believe several people.
Okay.
I distinctly remember several people not doing that and running through the dark into the house to shit.
This was in someone's backyard, right?
It's a grandma's backyard.
Okay, so my one guess is that grandma didn't want human shit somewhere in her backyard, so she made you all shit in a bucket.
Well, we could go to the house, but it was a pretty scary distance to walk at night.
Made is a bad choice of words.
Digging a hole.
Also, exactly. Eliza still solved it.
No, fucking grandma's backyard. Just fuck up my grandma's backyard. They had a garden back there. You couldn't really fuck it up. We had a cactus garden that they sold to the local Vallarta.
Oh.
There was also a car back there.
Okay, if nobody's eating anything in the backyard and it's so arid that it's
they're eating they're eating the cactuses. No, they're farming the cactuses. They're not just growing for fun.
What?
Cactus.
Hold on.
And a Mexican house.
All right, let's
Ruben,
go back.
There's a lot of stage setting you're not doing for
us.
Ruben, this is what I'm talking
about. No one
about.
asked me that. You said, did I camp as a kid? What the fuck?
No context.
No, I think
You have to
it's
set the scene, dude.
Okay, I'm Mexican. So first, my family escaped living in Mexico
Oh my
Okay.
god.
prior to my
That's
birth.
too far back.
hold on.
Fast forward, my grandma said my mom's a whore, and my dad ran away from home. 10 years later, shitting in a bucket. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, the thing is you said you were 12 and you had no control over the situation. I think you should have at least questioned the situation.
I said I was under 12. I don't have a good span of time for how old I was.
When I was 6, you better fucking believe I questioned literally everything that was told to me. Literally everything.
I wasn't big on questioning as a kid.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I was big on existing.
Okay, even if you're not, like, I think this bucket situation is one in which you question.
Yeah.
It blatantly fell apart. The other people did question it.
It
I
is
didn't have to go to the
clear. It
bathroom.
is clear that everyone else here is like, "Why are you shitting in a bucket, dog?"
I didn't have to go to the bathroom, so I didn't have this question. Several other people
I'm
said they're going to go inside.
open-minded.
That is okay.
I think one person was open-minded.
I am shit bucket agnostic, but only on the premise that grandmas often have these weird paternalistic demands that, yes, maybe you do ask with a certain je ne sais quoi, like, wait, what the hell? Is this like, am I doing some sort of old-timey thing that I'm not aware of? But like, at the same time, I think that like certain type of grandmas have different wrinkles than other grandmas. I feel like if you got a Mexican grandma, you're going to be inexplicably asked to do some crazy shit that maybe runs aground of the modern world. Jake.
Listen, I'll segue. Yeah, when I was a child and I was made to do camping activities, one of the things I hated the most was that it was simply that. Like I was like, I gotta shit somewhere and it's just out there. And like I don't have any, I gotta just like bring toilet. Fuck this. Why are we even out here? Why don't we go to a place with toilets? Like I was not into the whole idea of being outside so much as a kid in the context of camping. Although I did go on a few camping trips with like neighborhood friends and the dads of those friends. We all.
The fact that adults exist in the world who are incapable of making children interested in a forest full of animals.
Oh hell!
Oh yeah!
Natural wonders. It never ceases to amaze me. Like
I mean, I was certainly a hard one to. I think I was definitely a hard target in that regard. But yeah, it was. I definitely also. It was a lot of just like white guys, you know, like at the time it would have been like 4 like youngish dads taking their kids out as an excuse to like drink beer and hang out with each other, you know.
I would be in Eliza's camp with that, but like the Game Boy just came out. I was just about to get one.
I was too much of one of those kids, but I think that also it does fall on that. Like I don't know. I think nature's cooler now, even though I'm not a big camper. But yeah.
Okay, again, I'm calling bullshit on that. My grandfather was an engineer at NASA. I was born into a house with multiple computers in the early 80s. Like you don't get
maybe I had too many computers.
Games I was
too much screen time.
Yeah, I definitely
even so, like it was not a hard sell to be like, you gotta go outside and look at shit. This shit is amazing, because it is amazing. It's like the easiest thing in the world to show a kid stuff outside.
I don't know.
I think that's what I missed out on. I was
really on the opposite end of that. I got enough outside time, and because a good percentage of it was pulling weeds, and so at a certain point,
well, that's very individual. Like
N64 is pretty cool. I think people mistreated how good the outside could be, and they just were bad at cooking. So it was just like, you don't want to fish, and you don't like eating fish, and then no one here knows how to fucking cook. You eat a s'more and you go to sleep.
Oh,
you mean like in camping?
Yeah, just like they just.
Yeah, that's another thing. You got to have someone who knows what they're doing for food. But I think we should rope it back into why we're talking about camping today, because Ruben was supposed to lead this episode. Well, not lead. I don't want to put too much pressure on his shoulders. I know that's going to spook him. But
I was told not to lead this episode.
Our DIY project was camping.
Oh, if you give us a moment. What's up, Lucy?
So I have the synthesis between the Game Boy problem and actually wanting to go camping.
Ooh.
All right.
When I was a teenager, my dad and I went camping with a friend in like a camper van.
Okay.
And I was an extremely like online person at the time. And So I just want you to imagine me. We go out on like a fishing trip in this camper van, and I go and fish and everything. But at night, when we're not like fishing or anything, I am in the camper van with a little laptop, and I didn't bring my charger. So I'm just running a Linux computer with no graphics tethered to my phone, so I can chat on IRC at night.
Hell yeah.
Oh my
Pretty fun.
God.
That's the whole point of the Game Boy is that you can bring it camping with you.
Yeah, that is the lifestyle.
There's
While
no reason
camping.
You don't have
I
to
agree.
choose.
I do agree.
Yeah.
Formative teenage camping, though, different than like shitty kid camping, where like if someone doesn't pay enough attention, you could be dead in the woods.
Yeah, but that's on
Yeah.
parents, and we're talking about. I think today the whole
camping's
point
like-
is we're going to talk about camping for yourself, not camping when you're a kid on
Yeah.
I
trips.
think I would have liked, as a side note, I think I would have liked to be taken camping as a teenager. Probably would have been nice.
Yeah, well,
It's nice when it happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of asking you some questions to kind of get into this, Ruben. In terms of
Well, Jake didn't
recreation,
finish the last sentence. Jake said that he was going to explain it, and then we talked to Lucy, and then we cut it off there.
oh shit!
Go
Thank
off.
you, Ruben.
well, man.
No, listen. Our last episode that we had before we did the Martin interlude, so this would be about a month ago if you're listening. We talked COVID, we talked 2022, we talked new ideas. And one thing that came out of that conversation for us as a non-guest episode was, hey, it's easy. Eliza even said it's pretty fucking safe outside. You can bet on that. It's relatively safe.
Sure.
Um,
That's what happened.
given all that, maybe it's time for some of us who've been holding up to try and endeavor or maybe think about outdoor activities. I know I am. I'll put it that way. Like that's the reason I'm even saying it on this podcast. I've been up in quarantine for 2-ish years, and as much as I love playing computer games all day, as much as it is adaptive to my lifestyle, motherfucker, I think it's time for me to consider how to go camping. And I suck at it. So that's one of the reasons we're here. Is I need some.
Jake should be better at
Tips?
camping.
Yeah, I think I should, even if I don't really want to. I think it
I
would
was gonna
grow. I think
say-
it would be healthy for me.
Jake is in one of the few instances in where he's in the minority. Yes, even me, a absolute loathsome jackass who is probably the definition of an inside kid. My adolescence, my teen years, my adulthood, even absolutely full of camping. I mean, I get the notion that it's like a bougie white thing, blah blah blah, but really that's a lot of hollow rhetoric.
Yeah, that's marketing from people
I'm
that
not
sell
out
you
there.
fancy tents.
I'm
Like,
not out
it's
there with
not
the-
that bougie. I
I'm
don't
not
think.
out there with a pith cap and a machete, like going after uncontacted tribes. I'm like chilling outside at a public spot where they have designated camping areas. You do renting, or you can do some quasi legal camping and public to maybe not so public land. Pick your
Dispersed
poison.
camping.
Yeah,
Dispersed camping is what they would call it when you want
Yeah.
to find the map.
yeah. I've done less of that, but like for you, is it like mainly a recreational thing? You know how people talk about that big well up of cortisol spikes that just sort of go down if you go fishing. Does it have that kind of quality for you? Why you do it, baby?
Well, so first things first, I gotta talk about how I start another hobby because I watched an anime.
I think that's fair. Yeah, because to be clear for listeners, Ruben has, I'm guessing, has been camping the most recently out of all of us and has been doing it actively for the past year, to my knowledge. Like you go out with your partner, do some camping.
Oh yeah, we try to just plan a couple of camps a year, see what's up, what the lay of the land is, and all that. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that was it. That was all I was asking earlier, Doc.
So right now it's just doing the campground game, just because the logistics of a more involved trip for dispersed camping, even just dispersed for the same amount of time, like one day. Again, where do you shit? How much water do you need for that? How much water do you need to not die? Like you want the emergency amount of water. You don't want just a normal amount. I see some people do shit. I don't like it. I see this person's like, I can go camping, and they just bring a bike and a tent, and I'm like, okay, or they're on a motorcycle, and then they bring 1 water bottle, 2 beers, and like 5 hot dogs, and I'm like,
God,
you're gonna shit your pants. You're gonna have a greasy butt. This is fucking the worst camping. This is the worst prep I've ever seen.
See, this is what I need to hear.
It's just some campgrounds.
yeah.
They bring you. When you go to campground, you're gonna have a bathroom. How nice the bathroom is, and if there's electricity, and if it's full of spiders, depends on how nice the campground is. Northern Grand Canyon, incredible bathroom. It has electricity. It has lights at night. It has flushing toilets. It's not a vault. No, it's not. It's still. I think it's still a vault bathroom. They did something weird to it, and they got like lids, so
this
it
would just
doesn't-
be like a. This would just
What's
be like
a vault bathroom?
Oh, that's just an advanced porta potty. So
Ooh.
they just have a big hole, and it's all what's the word? It's all composting shit. So they're like, don't fucking throw trash in here. It's just for your dukes. And then they just throw it 50 feet underground, and they're like, you want to
Dukes
smell
only.
It's only, yeah. Just as an aside, that I've got toilet questions, Ruben. Is
Yeah,
that what they
toilets-
call? Is that what they call a chemical toilet?
it. No, that one's not a chemical toilet. I mean, they
But then
do.
what
they
is
could
a
have
chemical
vaults.
toilet? What is a
They would
chemical
have
toilet?
vaults
I
with
need to know.
chemical. There are compostable vaults, and then I believe chemical vaults are just ones that don't go anywhere or don't connect to the ground. And so it's probably, don't quote me on this, it's probably a concrete chamber, and they fill with chemicals to like melt down the dookie. And then that is probably a chemical toilet. I hope someone knows about chemical toilets more than me, because you shouldn't
Damn it, man.
risk your life on my knowledge of chemical toilets. I was concerned about
What?
where to shit, but they
How?
don't really tell you if it's going to be a chemical toilet or not. Let's see. Chemical toilets are that's what a porta potty is, because they put the blue stuff on it.
That
So a
makes
vault
sense.
toilet is a composting one sometimes, because it's connected. It connects to the dirt at some point, and they're like, this dookie gonna be dirt in 3 years. And so chemicals in there.
Self-contained system, and then
Self-contained.
the bacteria is neutralized by the chemical. Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, and that they break down solids with the chemical.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it. I won't be able to find the name. Oh, I think it's the Navajo Bridge in Arizona near Utah. That has some cool composting vault toilets, and they're like, that dookie gonna drop 100 yards down.
Whoa.
It's not just a vault. It's it's
Do
a free
you-
fall vault.
Okay, yeah.
They,
Do
like-
you? You're like actually sitting on that toilet, and then underneath your butt is like 100-foot drop.
There's like a slide.
Oh my god.
Your phone's done for if you go in there. But it's
That's hilarious.
probably at least a
yeah.
50-foot drop.
They
Oh my god, imagine.
probably- I'm guessing they have a flushing mechanism or like a
Sure.
flap or something. Because
It has a
It's
no.
a
It
little
has,
too dangerous to just
it
leave a
has a-
drop, yeah.
it has like a curve. How would I say it? It's like
It's like a water
it's
slide, I guess.
It's like a curved tube. It's sort of like how a toilet goes. Gravity is going to do the job.
Right.
If you fall in there or drop your phone by accident, it'll be at the bottom of the canyon near the river in a bit.
I'm just
Um,
imagining like a soul toilet, but then underneath like this
there's
giant
no way
cavern.
that they don't have some sort of safety mechanism there.
Oh yeah.
'cause-
No,
The
of
safety
course.
mechanism,
Of course.
what on the sign on the thing said, close the fucking toilet. That's all it says to do. Because they're like, it fucking stinks. You leave it open too long, because it's a straight shoot to Duke. I assume the safety mechanism is that I think if you go around and outside, I think you could get into it to like unclog it if it like seized
Sure.
up.
Like
from
you'd have to
monster
go
dumps.
down.
About, like
presumably
small
down.
children attempting to use the toilet. Like, there's no
Oh,
way that
yeah.
I think there's a kid's toilet. I don't think you would put a kid in there. I think there were like a smaller subsection that you like handle with a kid. I didn't get into the other
definitely would
toilets.
have heard about an incident at some point. If
I was just in there
Yes.
shitting.
There would be a child poop slide
we would have
somewhere.
heard about it, I think.
The worst
Yeah.
the worst water slide in the world.
I was gonna say the first time I was ever at one of those parks, Ruben, was actually the first time I had actually did like some sort of psychedelic. It wasn't like a narcotic thing or this or that. It was around the Puget Sound sort of area. It was I don't know if you could still go to it, folks. So don't quote me, but Fort Flagler. Oh, yeah, Ruben, what's up?
I'm not raising my hand. I'm covering the
Oh, he's embarrassed, folks.
Fort Flagler is a historic state park in Washington.
Fort Flagler, basically, long story short, Fort Flagler is Washington State getting ready for a Japanese invasion that never really came. And so it's a series of beachheads and military bunkers and stuff that was sort of built, as a defensive wall. It's very, very large, very picturesque. The nearby area oftentimes is used for weddings and stuff. And there's like a wedding procession.
And you camp on the wall?
So there's a park area adjacent to it, and it's just like less than a few blocks away. It's nothing but perfect serene woods, and the banger of the experience isn't Fort Flagler itself, like the bunkery stuff. It's a series of wooden poles sticking out of the sort of damp, dry tide area that you will immediately recognize from Half-Life 2 and the Antline Beach segment, particularly.
Oh, sure. I do know that parts of that were based around Washington.
And so
That's
those
cool.
poles are everywhere, and being high on mushrooms, you're going through that experience where it's sort of fucking with your neuron grooves. And then what am I staring? It was like I walked onto the Evangelion beach, but I just played Half-Life 2 that much. That was just like, there it is. That's the thing.
That can.
Absolutely wonderful experience. Obviously, they aren't all involving drugs or whatever, but for Flagler, what you were talking about with just some soda and hot dogs and like a not great diet while eating s'mores, it was something like that. It was a bunch of high people listening to Royksop and blasting. Royksop was going off at the time.
Poor Lino.
Yeah.
What else were they doing?
Well, these were mainly like DigiPen kids and people from a video game college, so they weren't like
seasoned campers.
They weren't like seasoned campers. They didn't bring like bedding or whatever, so we were like sleeping on hard ground. I had of course camped before, and so I was kind of like going through everyone's tents and stuff with them. It was me and like the dopey bro guy from Utah I'd known from the time. That was probably the last big time I had done that with a group of people. I'd camped several more times, but for me, I absolutely love doing it in the Pacific Northwest, even though the worst part of waking up in the PNW is like, if you go around those places, they have like mild like rainforest type climates. So you'll wake up like chafed and moist and like in your armpits, and it's like, oh God, I feel like unusually damp out there because it's just humid.
Are they just shitting raw out there?
Colloquially, I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Wasn't there there's a historical site nearby where did they have bathrooms? What was the
Oh,
shit
they
like?
they did have bathrooms. They were kept okay. Which was
in a low
thankful.
Population area, like if you're not a state park, parking lot, it's really okay to bury human shit in the woods.
I agree.
As long as there's not like a lot of it, and it's not, people aren't just like leaving it on top of the ground. It is okay to just bury it like a foot, 2 feet deep, as long as there's not a ton of people around, because it does decompose and
back to the earth.
Also,
as far
ideally,
as I know, this is what I was told about camping. So
ideally in a spot that is also sunned so that it dries, and don't put a rock over it, thinking, oh, I don't want someone to step on it, because that could help stop it from drying correctly and make people find Dookie later. Don't leave a trace. No trace left behind. That's what they say.
I was told just to dig a foot deep hole. Like, as long as it was deep enough and it was covered enough, you're not gonna.
Yeah, it's like a 6-inch minimum. I don't even think it's 6-inch minimum. I think it's like 8-inch minimum. So yeah, about a foot down, burrito sized. And but those were just some extra tips from a park ranger that's like, we have some places where people shit all the fucking time. So we would like it if you all as a people,
I bet,
as a society, if you could all follow these shit rules. Other than depth, please stop fucking putting rocks on top.
We're missing context again.
How?
Ruben, where
Yes.
did you speak to a park ranger?
I didn't speak to the park ranger that time. I was reading the website about the tenets of not leaving a trace behind while I was planning a camping trip, and they have very specific rule sets for where to shit.
Then
So
why
that's
did
where
you
you
say
got
a
this
park
info.
ranger told you?
Because they made the rule set. Because you said you just heard about a foot, and I'm like, oh, I'm just letting you know this is unclassified.
Ruben
documents.
read it on a park ranger's website, I think is what he's saying.
I'm imagining someone at the website just looking like the park ranger from
Well,
fucking
all right.
Jellystone, typing it up.
Here's what I was thinking was
That's
that
what
if
he's
you,
talking about.
if you are a park ranger, I'm very willing to bet you become intimately familiar with where everyone who comes to camp shits, even if it's outside of the designated shitting areas. So what Ruben probably read was some guy, or not some guy, but potentially some orgs tips for that specific to their whole
It's from the
camping vibe.
National Park Service's an article about their 7 principles of leave no trace.
Ooh.
When shitting, fuck, was it here? I'm trying to find it. I'll see if I could find it. I'll link it somewhere later. But effectively, it was a dude being like, "Hey, when we want nice rocks, people shit and then put a rock on top, and we're like, hey, let's fix this trail with this cool rock, and then they pick up a big rock just covered in wet shit 3 weeks ago."
So that's a how not to do it, basically.
So it's like,
That
don't
blows
think
my mind.
that
I
helps.
wouldn't even consider doing that. And I would never do that.
Oh
So
well.
weird.
Hold on, there is window dressing I left out here. This is closer in context to when there are like the really well hiked trails and people are like shitting on the trail and you can see the shitholes along the main road people use. So if it's like if someone would walk here but you're on the go, so you're 4 feet off to the side and shitting, you're not like 50 feet in a random direction covered in foliage. This is stuff they had to start because too many people are leaving wet shits on the highway. And
who's doing this?
I
I
genuinely think that like very not smart people.
And people also get weird Monopoly home rule tips of like, hey, you know what you should do after you take a shit in a hole is wipe your ass and then set the toilet paper on fire to dry the shit in the hole.
That does sound like
and start a little shit fire.
What?
They had to be like, please don't. Stop. There's so many shit campfires.
I have a small amount of sympathy for park rangers now.
Did someone start a small hole fire over here? Just like cook a burrito real quick? No, it's filled with shit. It's good. And they gotta dig all the paper out. It sucks being a ranger sometimes.
Yeah, don't be that guy if you're listening. Don't just do what Eliza told you. Just dig a hole and shit in it and cover it up.
Peeing is more or less open.
It's a really like high population campground, in which case
yes,
they would have a bathroom. I mean,
if they have a bathroom,
also
use a bathroom.
But yeah, it gets really bad along like high traffic trails that people are always hiking on.
I would like to see some more of these trails. I've heard some pretty good ones where somehow people are just getting a trowel and they just drop one right in the center of like the most well-traveled national trail. I forget what it's called. It goes all the way through Arizona to Canada. The NPF? No, I don't know what it's called. Whatever it is. People love the shit when they're hiking though, and they do it wrong.
Yeah, you're supposed to go off the trail by a certain number of feet. I'm sure it says on the website. I can't remember what it is. Like 20 feet or something. I don't know. Wouldn't you want some privacy? Like
some people are more about the speed.
Yeah, I keep imagining someone just like in the middle of a campground digging a hole and like looking at everyone in the eyes as they take a shit.
That's what it was.
Apparently it's hardcore backpackers that are like got to drop the speed and they gotta drop.
They're out there drilling.
They're going
how
low
fast
drag.
they can do a shit.
Low drag speed run. It's 5 a.m. 10 hikers wake up, one is to shit. They form a circle around them and they just fucking burrito a hole in the middle of the street and then start running down a path.
They all just turn around in a circle and go, all right, man, do your thing, and they pinch their nose.
They all share the same hole.
Go off, King.
Oh my god.
Quick soft serve for you.
I do know that. Okay, here's one thing that I've always been like that keeps me from wanting to camp is that there's this. Like, I'm not saying everyone who camps is like that, but that stereotype is so funny to me of the hardcore people who are very connected, who are just like, yeah, man, just shit right there.
Shit anywhere.
It's like, yeah, there's something about that doesn't bother me really, but it's like that's just like that's an image that I don't really like need to carry if I'm going to go camping.
Before I get to Jake's point, also shit 200 feet away from water. Don't shit closer to water.
Ooh, yeah.
Then, to be honest, there were I think we squeezed 3 camping trips in last year, and for 2 of them, it just clogged up. It was just like, you know what? You don't need to do this. You could die. I had a base level anxiety while out there because I was like, yeah, something could try to kill me. And
you're just saying like you just didn't go to the bathroom at all? Like
it just doesn't come up.
You just it just wasn't happening. If you can maintain a minor amount of fear for your life and still have fun, then your body will lock it up and be like, whoa, not here, friend.
Could not be me.
I would say that only works for a minimum amount of time in camping.
But
hey, on an overnight, maybe that's okay.
Not medical advice.
Yeah, it's not medical advice.
I am not going to get sepsis because
it's instinctual advice. If it's been 5 days, there might be a problem.
Yeah.
But if you camp for 1 day and it's been 5 days, you have bigger fish to fry than a lack of shit.
Mount Everest.
Yeah.
As something like, I'm looking for the statistic.
Mount Everest grows 3 feet every year just from shit.
Bad. It's because people go to Everest and then they get like altitude poisoning and just have diarrhea the entire time.
Yeah.
So the trails are just disgusting. Like they're
no.
The brown road.
And also human corpses because when someone
right
dies on Everest, they just leave them there.
Yeah.
And then
so
super
it's
chill.
just disgusting. I don't know why anybody climbs Everest anymore. It's horrible.
Is it the biggest one? Memory serves, it wasn't the biggest one. That's like K2, yeah.
Isn't that? Yeah, did K2 get after Madagascar? I think that's how they
I think it depends on how you measure it, like whether it's above sea level or not.
Oh, okay. Just from total ground distance and then plus sea level. That's kind of fucked up. I guess.
And then the other thing is, I think they changed it with Everest that you have to like take your shit back down with you now.
Well, they can't enforce it.
They can't enforce it because you could.
Oh yeah, I guess not.
That's one of those rules that's
if you are like some British guy and you're with your Sherpa and you don't pick up your doggy bag, I think the Sherpa should be allowed to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I have too much faith in people because I was like thinking, oh, but why wouldn't someone just take it back down with them? It's the rules.
Yeah.
I'm sure for the wrong reasons. It's like Ruben was talking about those like turbo backpackers. You know, they're not out there because they think nature is beautiful or like. They're
about the
having
speed run
experience. They're out there because they're fucking speed running.
Ooh, that's a good perspective on it too.
A lot of people don't give a shit.
I'm here to tell people I walked 300 miles.
Talking about like the dads earlier who are just out there to drink beer, and drinking beer in the woods is completely respectable. I'm not saying it's not, but there are a lot of people out there who will drink their beer in the woods, then leave their fucking cans there. You know?
Oh yeah.
Can't leave your cans there.
Fuck those people.
It's a pro drink zone. Can't leave the place all fucked up. You also can't drive your fucking golf car around all day listening to fucking country music full blast while you hear your kids screaming from half a mile away because it's a fucking forest, dipshit.
That's
your kids' voices are carrying half a mile.
Fucking tell them.
I can't imagine going camping next to someone who brought a golf cart. Good lord.
They're about to imagine what's like camping next to someone that holds a gun really close to their children.
In Washington State.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I was going to ask you was in terms of lakes you had seen, like Puget Sound, all of that. Is there any haunts in particular you're fond of, Eliza?
Well, Puget Sound is not a lake.
Oh, shit.
Snap. Yeah, tell her ass. She lived in Washington for a couple of years and thinks she knows it.
It's a sound. It's saltwater.
For sound. Fuck me. I'm in hell.
What are you saying?
Yeah. Never mind.
Is the name Puget Sound?
It is a sound.
It's a sound. It's a sound of the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
A sound is a body of salt water.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Like like a sea or an inlet or something like that.
Dang old Wikipedia page for it.
So its name's Puget, the sound.
It's the Puget Sound.
Correct.
They introduce it like that all the time.
Which sound? Puget Sound.
Okay.
But yes, I'm especially ignorant. Despite having lived in Washington for like a decade, I'm very ignorant to the amount of good spots that we have up here that I do know exist.
All right. Well, according to my dad, and he has lived literally all over the world because he was an army brat. He's a big camping guy, loves outdoor stuff. He thinks that this area, the Pacific Northwest, is some of the best camping in the whole world. And his reasons are as follows. Number one, we really don't have any bugs. This is a huge thing with camping is bugs, and it's particularly true anywhere that has any kind of humidity.
Yes.
Anytime during the summer, if you're up in the mountains, you're just going to get eaten by mosquitoes. And other types of bugs too, but mostly mosquitoes. We have some mosquitoes in the Pacific Northwest, and it's actually getting worse as climate change kind of fucks up our biome. But overall, this is as close as you can get to a bug-free camping experience, with the exception, of course, of like arid regions where you're not going to be dealing with anything except the occasional scorpion. So that's great. You can go out to the mountains here in August or early September. Those are great camping times because they're still kind of warm from summer, but starting to cool off. So you're not gonna get all dried out either, and you're just not gonna get mosquitoes really, which is amazing. And it's not humid. It's dry enough so that you're not going to get super, super sweaty when you're hiking. There's a lot of fresh water around, which is easy to decontaminate using, you can bring iodine tablets, you can boil, you can use filters. There's a lot of different ways to decontaminate the fresh water in the area. So I think when I went camping, we either boiled or we used iodine tablets, which tastes kind of crappy, but if you have a drink mix of some kind, like an electrolyte mix, it covers up the purification tablet taste really well. And yeah, so we wouldn't really do anything fancy. We'd have like probably some trail mix, and then my dad's camping food of choice was pretty much ramen noodles, and then some kind of dried protein like jerky is fine. And that was fine for like 2 or 3 day trip. It kind of takes up some volume in your bags, but it's so lightweight that it's easy to carry. And it's really nice during camping, just in terms of morale and fun, to have something hot to eat, because you do get really bored of just eating, cold or dry food. And with soup, any kind of a salty soup like a ramen is great for camping because you need those electrolytes and you need that water. And as I said, it covers up the taste of if you're doing any sort of iodine decontamination for water. So the camping around here is really good. I think probably the major camping trip we went on was called Lake Anne. And Lake Anne, I would have to look it up, but it's a really beautiful. I can't remember how long this hike was. I think it was like 20 miles up a mountain and then back down again. I think it was for like round trip, and I was about 6.
Oh, damn.
And so it took a few days, looked like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, it was Lake Anne. It's off of Mount Baker Highway, so it was a good trail for just a dad with a small kid. 1,900-foot elevation looks like. So yeah, it's gorgeous. It's partially arid, like rocky mountains, and like fields full of blueberries. So that was fun. And the lake itself, I think, is at a pretty high elevation, which is cool. And then there's a lot of hiking through actual forest. So I think my dad probably chose it, not just because it's a good camping / hiking trip in general, but also because it sort of gives you an experience of a lot of different biomes that are in the Pacific Northwest. So you go through, the conifer forests, up the Rocky Mountain, and then I think I don't know if we were past like a tree line or if there just weren't a lot of trees around the lake itself, but either way, it was great. So I recommend that one a lot. But yeah, I don't know if right now is a great time to go camping. We were talking about kind of camping to get out of quarantine. If you were going camping in the United States at the moment, I think probably almost anywhere in the United States right now, with the exception of the southern desert areas, it's going to be pretty fucking cold. And of course, it's always cold at night in the desert. So.
Yeah.
But
it's true.
You can do cold weather hiking. It's just, it's a little riskier. You should have more gear. Make sure that you got the right temperature rating. Probably Ruben knows more about that, like individual temperature rating on sleeping bags and gear and tents.
in my head, to my gamer self,
To an
that's
extent.
like hard mode. That's like if I was to get into camping, I'd be like, ooh, I would never start in the winter.
I wouldn't. People die a lot.
Right, yeah.
I think it's something like 6 people a year just fucking die in national parks, and a lot more people just go missing.
Yeah, it's not that hard. Like, I mean,
No.
Yep.
It's really easy to die in the wilderness.
it's not that hard to fall asleep and just get too cold. Your body will get too cold, and that's fucking scary to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's logistics in terms of what your elevation is and what your actual base temperatures will be and what shit will drop down to. If you're in an area that has a lot of elevation changes, that could be something that could surprise you weather-wise.
I mean, it's a
I don't
trope.
know.
It's like a trope in a lot of survival fiction or whatever. The person who falls asleep and is like, "I'm fine," and then just like fucking gets the little
Woke up.
yeah, they become the
Bagged.
little match girl. They
Became-
they're like, "Oh, I'm so warm," and then they're freezing to death.
Turn
It
the
sneaks
pee.
up on you.
Right.
Yeah, I remember one thing that my dad always really hammered on was your feet. And it's
Ow.
specifically because it's kind of like if something happens to your tires in the middle of the wilderness, like you're fucked, and your feet are
It's
the
true.
things that are getting you in and out of whatever situation that you're going to be in up there. So he was really adamant when he was teaching me how to camp and hike. He's like, we have to stop every X amount of miles or time or whatever, and everybody has to take their socks and shoes off and check your feet. And so he's
Check your
very
feet.
specifically taught me, like, these are, he took me to shop for hiking boots and then specific kinds of socks. And he, everybody has, I'm sure, individual opinions, but he's like an old school guy. So he was like, wool socks, because wool can keep you warm even when it's soaking wet, which is something nice about wool.
The
Now we
insulation
have a
wool.
lot of synthetic materials that can do that kind of thing. But you never want to wear like cotton socks when you're hiking, for example, because they get soggy and then they kind of fall apart and they do not keep you warm. But a wool sock cuts way down on friction and it keeps you warm even when it's wet. So if you step in some creeks or fall in a puddle or it rains or it snows, and if your feet get wet, you can get hypothermia from wet feet really fucking fast in temperatures that aren't super low. So you want that wool sock barrier. But so he would tell me, for example, you got to check your feet for hot spots, and a hot spot is what happens before you get a blister. So after you've been hiking for a little while, you want to just pay attention to your feet, and if you can feel any particular part of your feet getting extra hot, then you want to put the moleskin, which is an adhesive kind of fuzzy tape, on top of the hot spot before you get the blister. Because once you get the blister, it's kind of too late.
Oof,
Yeah, you're
I
done.
hate that was my that
can't-
was
you can't
again
go
like
back.
I think I had some experiences now. I'm remembering as a kid, like nothing crazy, but just this whole concept of if I'm going to hike, that means I might get a blister. Fuck that shit. Why would I do that? None of the preventative measures you have entailed here were ever like imparted on me. Like,
That makes me crazy, dude. 'cause
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's such a cool and fun thing to do, and it's such like, I don't know. I'm not going to say that anybody's life is wasted if they've never gone camping. That's not what I mean. But I do think that like going outside and walking around in the woods or the desert or the mountains is such a
Mm.
human thing, and it's such a cool and important gift to give to your kid. And I understand that not everybody has the benefit of my weird autistic father who has like a million special interests and has read 40 books about every single thing he's been interested in. But yeah, it's not like framing the issue as, well, if I go hiking, I'm going to get a blister and that fucking sucks. That's a reasonable thing to think about going hiking if you're 10.
Exactly.
But then the adult's purpose in this interaction is to be like, well, I understand why you feel that way, but here's how we don't get blisters. Getting blisters is optional. You don't have to get a blister.
Mm-hmm.
Blister tech.
What?
Yeah,
The Discord tech of blisters.
yeah,
Yeah,
you need that. You need the
seldom
wool
known.
socks. Your dad had the
Seldom
tech
taught.
for blisters.
Yeah. And again, he's old. He's like not even a boomer. He's silent generation. So this is a dude who was camping in the 50s with all leather, wool, cotton, before
Old school.
synthetic
Or rayon,
materials and- Yeah, exactly.
Polyester. This shit's fucking 50 pounds of clothing. 30-pound backpack with a 10-pound frame.
Right. The dude's
Yeah.
wearing, yeah, exactly. He's wearing a framed backpack that's made out of like iron or something.
Fucking steel frame.
This guy, when I inherited the shitty station wagon that he drove all through the 60s, it had a pipe screwed to the front bumper that was part of the rack that he used to carry his hang glider around.
Hell yeah.
This is a dude who, to go camping, would put his hang glider on top of his 1976 Toyota Corolla station wagon, drive it up to the top of a mountain in Montana, and then jump off. So he knew everything about how to pack, get up the mountain, and then jump off the mountain without dying. And he did this many dozens of times, presumably. So what we're looking at here is the Walter Sobchak type. That was an extremely accurate stereotype of what Vietnam veterans are like.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those guys got really into this like outdoorsy type stuff because, you know, they were too fucking traumatized to spend time around other people in their leisure time. Now he just plays Arma 3.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think the Arma 3 mentality goes very well with camping because it's like, you know, assigning objects to various limbs, making sure that you've got your bag all loaded up, inventory management. So really the gamer mindset, the gamer champion mindset really transfers very effectively onto camping, I think, you know. You want to look at your
I believe that's true.
ratings.
The more I get into Escape from Tarkov, the more likely it is I will start to enjoy camping. I'm beginning to understand this.
Yeah.
It gets very real to be like, do I need this weight? Do I want to lug this shit with me?
Totally.
Is this enough food? Is this enough extra food?
The writer,
it really gets
what's
you.
his name? I want to say Bill Burr, but that's not it. It's not Bill Burr.
It would be very interesting if that's
very funny if it were. But there's a writer who hiked the Appalachian Trail and just wrote a book about it. And he said that all of the like really experienced trailheads told him to not bother carrying any food except for Snickers.
Ooh.
Wow.
And something about Snickers, it's like, well, you got the peanuts, you got the sugar, the chocolate, and then the only thing left over is a wrapper, and you can just put the wrapper in.
It makes sense. Like, I honestly, it's one of those things. Like, even before an energy, if I know I need quick calories, and even in my city life, I will grab a candy bar for that reason.
Oh, Bill Bryson.
I was looking that up.
Bill Bryson's a great writer. I've read a couple of his books, I think. Yeah, he wrote A Walk in the Woods. I guess I'm looking at this article. Apparently, it's considered to be a book that sort of changed the culture of the Appalachian Trail because so many people
I know a lot of
hiking the Appalachian Trail after it, which I don't understand because the majority of the book is like, I've been in the woods for 2 weeks. I'm so sick of Snickers that I would rather die than eat Snickers. Everyone I meet is insane. I'm thinking about throwing this guy I met off of the side of a cliff. I mean, it's just, it's a really fun memoir because it's basically going insane in the woods while eating candy bars. But yeah, it's a good book if you want to read about camping. I haven't read it in a while, but the stuff I remember is good. I don't know. We didn't bring candy bars when I went camping. My dad was really set in this. He really liked the ramen thing. I think ramen is a good base camping food.
Yeah, that's also really calorie dense.
It's salt and noodles.
Yeah.
You got the carbs, and then you bring in whatever protein you want to put into it.
Yeah.
I might bring some gelatin powder if I went camping to put into a soup.
Damn you! Oh,
what's up?
Lucy's had a hand up.
I really quickly in my head said, "You're gonna make Jello." Damn.
Yeah, you can make Jello.
Sit in the cooler overnight. This is gonna be good in the morning, y'all. That's just gonna set.
Eating it out of my hand as I hike. Like, hey guys.
Warm Jello.
Here's some Jello. I got it in a bag. I do have a different food setup though, pretty different because it's just been car camping at this point.
Ruben.
I do have a handful of gear. Oh yeah.
Let Lucy talk.
Oh shit, is Lucy in here?
Lucy's just had a hand up, and I wanted to check.
I've just been waiting patiently. Eliza was making
very
a really good point, so I was just waiting.
Yeah, no, Eliza was spitting for sure.
So something that came to mind when Eliza was speaking is that I think a lot of the reason why a lot of the younger generations have such a negative view of camping, like for example, the idea if I'm going to go hike, I'm going to necessarily get a blister, is because a lot of like the Gen X age parents like mine just assume that they can like intuit how to do camping without doing any preparation. And I think that comes through a lot in American media too, because there's always like the trope of like suburban dad who assumes he knows everything about camping and just totally fucks it up.
Correct. This has been my experience with camping. That's exactly what my family did. I didn't mention it because I was trying to be brief in the opening, but one of the trips we did was that we had to fucking go home like the morning after the first night of a 3-day trip because they just biffed all of our food and burned everything. And we didn't catch any fish, so they didn't have, and they had to like make a big breakfast to compensate. They didn't bring anything to cook eggs with, so they had cast iron pans and then eggs, and then we're like, these are just burning, and they wasted half the eggs burning them, and then they poured pinto bean water into the cast iron pan to be the butter lubricant for the eggs, and then they made gray eggs. And I don't know why we didn't eat the beans too. They were like, we had to save the beans, but to ration that for later. So the bean water is the butter for these eggs. And we said, we're not fucking eating those. 2 people ate the bean water eggs and we went home.
Have people
Complete
been
train wreck.
stupider since
Pure horror.
the 50s? Like,
Okay, when I was imagining like someone intuiting how they were going to do this without doing any preparation, I was not imagining bean eggs. That's a level of incompetence beyond.
Eliza,
pan, beans, eggs. That's 3, and we're gonna catch fish. That's 3 days of food.
I don't
just
really.
assuming that you're gonna catch fish somewhere is so.
They barely
fucked up.
fished.
I genuinely think that I don't want to definitively say people have been getting stupider since the 50s, but there's a lot of evidence.
They also bought the fishing rods for that trip. No one was an angler in this crew. No one knew how to fish either. You assume
back to video games because none of us would be stupid enough to assume that we were going to be able to like always find resources if we went on an expedition in a video game.
It's all around you.
We would check. We'd be like, "Hey, what's your level on angling, Ruben?" And Ruben's like, "I'm level 5." I'm like, "We're not going to catch shit."
Yeah, how are we going to catch
zero.
this giant fish?
It's a bad idea. I go all the way in with prep. It's all prep logic. I do a nice stir fry. I bring my wok, and I got
woks are
a little heater.
Yeah, even as a non-camper, a wok over a fire, that's perfect.
I also have a tiny isopropyl backpacking stove.
Oh yeah.
And I can walk over that. I just pre-cook the rice. Don't cook your rice at the site, by the way, unless it's like a 4-week fucking 3-day trip. Put bags of rice in your cooler, and then you can just fucking fry them on the spot when you get to the site. It's
best way to make fried rice for sure. Leftovers, you make that rice, you cool that shit down.
It's great.
Well, there is a way to make rice on the site that's going to be a little bit more predictable. I don't know if this is easily purchasable in the US, but like in Japan, whenever you go camping, you'll make curry and rice, and there's like a device that is designed just for making like rice over the fire.
Yeah, it's like a big metal canteen. I know what you're talking about.
Rice. Oh, obviously there's rice cooker tech in Japan is beyond anywhere else, but I didn't know they had like specific camping rice cookers. That does make a lot of sense. It is awesome.
So it's not like electric in any way. It's just like a box that's like on a stand, sort of.
Hell yeah.
But like there's definitely a way to make rice.
I've seen a version that's also like on a stick. It looks like a big metal canteen. You just throw all the shit in, close it, and it like latches, and then you hang that from a stick over
like a little
fire.
Cooker.
Yeah,
sort of.
Somewhat similar, yeah.
I can't find something, but
I think we had a little tiny propane stove. I think my dad didn't build a fire; he brought a stove.
I do love
smart.
Propane. Like
also, look out for your fire. Look out for your fire restrictions. You might need a stove.
Because he didn't want to build a fire and like leave a fire by the side. I don't know. I think he just decided for that trip propane would be better. I mean, also because Pacific Northwest, it does rain kind of unpredictably, so you don't want to be reliant on always being able to build a campfire, because sometimes you can't. If it's too wet, if you don't have materials.
I would imagine that, especially out here where it can be dry and then 2 hours later it can start to be really wet.
You could end up with some like chunkier materials. You could end up with chunkier gear items to try and be building a fire and then be like, I got this big ass fucking pan to cook in. Whereas you could get smaller contained systems to work better on the stove. Yeah. Oh, I fucking found it. A Hengu cooking pan. Nah, is that the brand?
Is that just the type of wok you bring out?
Let the people figure it out. Okay, I found one so people could see the see what it is for size reference. Like I said, it kind of looks like a canteen. Is this what you're talking about, Lucy?
Let me take a look. Did you drop
Oh,
it in
yeah.
the chat?
I dropped it in. I dropped it in the desk.
Did I put it in the wrong place? I
Did
put it in the
you?
wrong
No,
place.
you put it in the
Sorry,
wrong
I
place.
told
put it in the
I
Discord,
told a bunch of real
homie.
life friends.
Well,
I just showed them.
Yes,
how to
this is
cook.
exactly what I'm talking about. This is the exact thing I'm
Ooh.
talking about. So
Yeah, it's
you
pretty
use this
these
to cook
are
rice over a
very
fire.
cool. Okay, so yeah,
Two
just
lines.
for the listeners, yeah, it is basically just a metal container with a little hook on it that you can hang over a fire, provided you have something to hang it off of.
You know what it
135
looks like?
millimeters up.
You know what it looks like? It looks like one of those, or at least from the side profile shot, it looks like one of those containers for binoculars.
Yeah, it
Oh,
definitely
wow.
it has a
Yeah.
military container vibe to it.
Yeah, like a very
Well, I mean,
canteen
you also have to
sort
consider
of.
that for years, this is how rice was
Mhm.
made in Japan, not like directly over
Ooh.
fire, but like with a wood burned like clay pot.
Totally. Because it's not hard to do. I know Ruben was talking about making fried rice on a wok, but that there is something very like Eliza was saying with noodles. If you go camping, you can cook rice over an open fire.
I think it really depends on where you're camping and what your local resources are. Because I mean, ramen makes
True
sense if
facts.
you're going somewhere where you have a lot of water, just like around.
Hmm.
If you're not packing in so much water, but you're harvesting water locally and then
Mhm.
decontaminating it, then yeah, noodles or something that's like water heavy makes a lot of sense. But if you have to pack in your own water, then you want to like adjust your packing in that way. But yeah, I mean, Pacific Northwest hiking and camping, there's a lot of water around, and it's clean enough to eat as long as you take the precautions. So you can rely on having local water available to a certain extent. Depends on the time of year, obviously. Like there are different water levels. Actually, somewhere I'd really like to go camping locally. And I don't know, maybe Jake and I could hit this sometime, is the Snoqualmie River has a really heavy quartz deposit.
Ooh.
Quartz and
Can you
amethyst.
get that quartz?
And you can go out there and just dig around in the mud and pull up big quartz crystals and geodes and shit like that. And that has always seemed like
Hey.
a really fun. I mean, I love just hiking and camping by itself, but it's also
Right.
Do they
kind of
have
fun
a-
to have like a destination. You want to go dig around, get some crystals, and then go home. That sounds like a good time to me.
I did love as a
have,
kid even big shiny rocks. That is a cool
Is there?
thing.
Do they have a rock limit for what you can secure with you
Ooh.
on the daily when you're rock hounding?
Damn. Yeah, rock hounds alert.
It is so
They'll
what's
never
the
know.
word? It's
They'll
just
never know.
Plentiful?
exactly, yeah. It's so plentiful. Apparently,
Yeah.
it just doesn't matter. So there used to be on Capitol Hill in Seattle, there was every weekend there would be like a little flea market, and it was completely unauthorized and full of like actual flea market type people as opposed to like farmers
Mm.
market type shit, which is what you usually get in Seattle. So I haven't seen the flea market in a while. I hope it comes back. But one of the guys at the flea market was this 75-year-old dude with really long white hair and a white beard. He looked like an actual wizard.
Hell yeah.
And his name was Merritt. And this dude only sold one thing, and that was buckets of quartz crystals that he had dug up at Snoqualmie
yeah.
River.
Oh,
Fucking
hell
sick.
yeah.
So he was basically like this old-timey mountain man prospector who would come rolling into town once a month or once a week with buckets of quartz crystals and amethyst and sell them by the side of the road at this flea
Oh my
market.
god, I bet he would make a killing in Seattle too. There's so many people that would love crystals.
I would always buy from him.
Hell yeah.
And one time, after a few times of me talking to him, being like, "Hey, this is really cool," and just showing interest, he told me where he got his stuff and kind of gave me directions and that kind of thing. So he's really cool. I hope he's doing okay. I haven't seen him in a while, but yeah, it's a whole thing. Like this is a really good camping area, but apparently the geology in the Pacific Northwest is also super good for rockhounds. People find a lot of good crystals and shit around here, I guess.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Got a 10-pound limit though. Infinite rock.
I don't think there's a limit. If there is, I
Mhm.
haven't heard of it.
I bet there's only a limit for certain people.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it seems to be so endemic to the region. I
It's,
don't think anyone cares.
Right. Who's taking all the
Hmm.
quartz? What do you got, Lucy?
I have to know.
So I wanted to make a similar suggestion for a park for any listeners that are down south. there is a state park in Arkansas where you can go and dig for diamonds.
What?
Fuck.
That is fucking cool, actually.
That's pretty cool.
I mean,
that-
if you go looking for quartz or amethyst up where Eliza suggested, you're probably going to have a much easier time finding something nice to bring home. But
Sure.
yes, there is a state park in Arkansas, and I believe it's in central Arkansas, where you can actually go and look for diamonds, and people do occasionally find big fucking diamonds. Occasionally, I will add. So like,
Right.
chances of bringing something home are going to be much less. But if you're down south and not near Washington, it might be worth a trip.
That
I
is
have
kind
heard
of
this
fun.
place. I can't
Is it
remember
just
what
like-
it's called, but I've definitely heard of it.
The state, I'm assuming, just has some sort of thing where it's like, hey, whatever you find is yours, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's about the long and the short of it. I personally haven't been to this site because I didn't go to central Arkansas a whole lot when I lived there, but I know there's a state park there, and like if you don't have a shovel, they'll like rent one to
Oh
you.
my god. I just started watching rewatching Deadwood with some friends, and that's I just get big Deadwood vibes from that. Going prospecting.
There is a, what is it? I did a bit of research on rock counting because I was going to merge these skill sets of car camping and then bringing a bunch of material to going to BLM land and then collecting rocks instead of hiking in between the camps. So if you need official guidelines, usually you'll find things under Bureau of Land Management, and they will give you limits. Apparently, the Washington-Oregon limit is 25 pounds of petrified wood per day. But it doesn't seem to add limits to other items. So
It's
I
a lot
guess
of
you could
petrified wood.
just have
Even.
as much
It is.
shit you want.
That's considerable.
Yeah.
But $250 a year. Hey, hold on, not 25 a day forever.
Oh.
Yeah, you gotta stop eating after 10 days. Can't just have as much as you want. But I mean, that is a shitload. If you just wanted a backyard that was only petrified wood, you could probably
Yeah.
tune that out real quick.
Yeah,
Do it in
I think if you
December?
want more petrified wood than that, you do need to be limited.
Yeah, I know there's artists that do stuff with it. I guess that's where the limit comes from. Presumably someone's out there hounding for all that wood.
Or you just sell it forever. You become rock seller, and
Yeah.
it's like you never stop me from selling. It's all I can sell out here. I just own this whole lot. They also have some verbiage about a reasonable daily collecting amount, because apparently it got pretty fucking wild out there sometimes. And they're like, guys, get the fuck out of here! Garbage truck pulling.
That's what
Makes
that
sense.
yeah.
They're kind of like, it has to fit into a trunk. It has to fit into a trunk. Let's hold on. Hold on.
It's all fun and games until someone shows up with the fucking giant truck or some shit and tries
The
to
U-Haul.
yeah.
That sounds good to me. I mean, is there any greater joy than like digging a hole and finding something cool in it?
It's
You know?
true.
My
I mean
father-
that's what else is a loot box but that in our current environment of the world. Like I literally play a game where I hit a button to open something and there's a little bit of a pause before it shows me what's inside of the thing I'm looking at, and that is the same as digging for treasure to me.
That's digging. Yeah.
That's the same fucking thing. My brain is like, yes, I'm digging for treasure, and I'm watching a little like clock spin for a brief half a second before it shows me what's inside. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not. What's up, Michelle?
I was about to say, yeah. My dad is considering, after years of watching YouTube for people like essentially go by beaches with those metal detectors. Yeah, he's been doing that and following a family in Britain, where a lot of their industrial section or their like industrial sectors got shut down. So they'd like also throw a sort of remote metal detector on a string, and they'd sort of fish out things. And they'd find like big metal beams and like World War era rifles that are like basically not desiccated. That's not the word I'm looking for here, but basically eroded beyond any ability to use. Which is just sort of wild because they're in this sort of complex man-made river system in the city. Yeah, like he wants to do it as his like old guy thing. He's got a bunch of grandkids, so like that's his inroad to like successfully being a grandpa. It's just
He wants to
walking
be
around.
cool metal detector grandpa, yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely do too. I fucking love metal detectoring. The thing is that metal detectoring in the United States sucks.
What?
Really?
Did we clamp down on it or something?
Well, no. because we don't have a history of metal using.
the
you
good
know,
That's
shit.
true.
all
We got loot out here.
The oldest thing that you're gonna find here
Right.
that's made of metal is gonna go back to, you know, colonial settlements.
Right.
So it's not like in Britain where you walk around in a field and you find a Saxon hoard.
Find some
Yeah.
fucking Viking sword
Do
shit.
not have stuff like that in the United States. And here's the other thing. Anything you do dig up that's not like related to settler colonialism is going to belong to indigenous people who were here before. And you don't want to be digging up their shit.
It's true.
And most of that shit is not going to be metal anyway. But any artifacts that
beans.
you do find that are not like directly deposited by European settlers is going to belong to indigenous people.
I'm gonna be really honest. I'm gonna be really honest and open right now. So this better be a fucking safe space. Listen,
Oh boy.
before you said that,
How
I-
many arrowheads do you have, Ruben?
it can't.
Oh,
no,
no.
not that.
Oh, I'm looking
I
to
just
my
had-
left and my right.
I didn't even realize there wouldn't even be cool shit to find when I was thinking metal detecting. I really just thought like, God, I hope I come across like a whole ingot, just a big
And
old brick.
coins, like you think about ancient coins.
Yeah, like
Coins
oh, look
and
at the,
ingots, a little dagger.
finding ancient Roman coins in the shores of Louisiana. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I guess, I mean, maybe you'd find some like pirate shit if you were
Yeah.
in exactly the right spot. Maybe.
Right. No, that's a great point though, just in terms
Yeah.
of like, I bet there's just the
morale.
sheer numbers game of finding cool shit is so much higher in Europe when it comes to metal detecting.
Yep. I mean, you can
Oops.
find like, I don't know, coins and jewelry and stuff that people just fell out of their pockets at the beach, but it
Mm.
lacks a certain.
It's not the same
Not the
anymore.
same, yeah, not
You
quite
really
the
just
same.
fucking shot this in the head. I didn't even. I was hoping in 5 or 10 years I could be like, yeah, let's add a metal detector to the camping
It's
setup.
a huge bummer. It really
Fucking.
is. It's a huge bummer. Lucy's got their hand up, so what's up?
No, what's up, Lucy?
So, Jake, I think you mentioned like the loot box thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that capitalism had solved that issue for you, and you can have the camping experience of just digging for random like minerals and stuff in the comfort of your home?
Oh no, you're gonna try to get me to play Minecraft, aren't you?
No,
Go
it's stupider than that.
Oh, do tell.
Go on.
So I'm not sure if they sell these in the US, but I've seen like Australian
do.
YouTubers. What they'll do is they like you buy this thing where it's like really hard sand, and they give you like a
Oh,
little mine pick,
no.
and you like try to chop it
Oh,
open,
this
and
is
it'll
so
have like a
embarrassing.
random mineral or gem in it.
Oh, that shit's fun.
So it's like a literal blind box of
I
like
see what you're
digging for the
saying.
stuff that you might see when you're camping.
That's kind of cool, actually.
It's actually the complete opposite of fucking cool. I was watching some.
Shut up! Shut
I was
up!
watching.
Shut up!
I was watching
Make a
some.
fake thing
listen,
for you to excavate? That
listen.
sucks.
Yeah. So like
Fake,
the idea
fake
is
excavation
that like
aside. Hold on. Hold on. I watched.
I can see it
watched
being
the
like a
dude.
gift for a kid, but there is the argument you should just take them outside as well.
exactly.
I was doing normal stuff, and I was watching a person collect pennies, and they were like, "I bought $3,000 of pennies. We're doing a penny unrolling." And they're gonna find the cool
$3,000
pennies.
worth of pennies.
Because sometimes you get pennies worth more than the money you put in, and you just give it back to the bank and get your money back, and then gain a profit from sorting pennies. But then I found a person.
Well, hold
doing,
on.
Let's do 100. Let's do 100 bricks of sand, compressed dirt that they might put a gem in. 90% of the time, it was piece of glass or piece of concrete. It
Oh
was
my
so
God.
sad. That shit was
Imagine getting it
fucked
for a
up.
child and being like, you might find a gem and it's
You
broken
could get
glass.
gold or a gem. It's a fucking bottom of a bottle, just like the corner of a bottle.
Oh no.
Well, the thing is those videos where like a YouTuber will be unboxing like 100 of those are usually targeted at fucking children. So the children that aren't getting to go camping are watching this garbage on YouTube
That's
instead.
wild. Oh my
They should
god.
just watch camping on YouTube instead.
We
of
gotta
going over
blow up
bad
YouTube and
bricks.
take kids camping. And I didn't even like camping as a kid, and I'm saying
There's even a more depressing version. You can even not even be in the lottery to get a piece of gold. I think they got like one gold roll, and it might have been like a flake, like a just like crumpled piece of gold foil or something. I don't even know if they got that high of a tier. They got a couple amethysts, so that was okay. Something happened.
I
But
had a
there's
couple things
also-
of amethyst as a kid that I still remember being
There's a
like
fucking-
the coolest thing.
There's the fantasy version that like puts a Lego piece in it. So now you don't even get like a rock. It's just a bunch of dirt. So just starch on your desk, and you get like a dragon leg. And they're like, hey, if you buy 30 more of these, you could build a shitty Happy Meal toy.
I mean,
fucking
yeah.
depressing. It's
That's
so
just
depressing.
fucking sad out
you
here.
can go outside and dig a hole in dirt.
You
You
can
can
find a
just do
regular
that.
rock in your
It's
yard.
true.
That's way better.
Oh,
I mean,
it's-
The
yeah.
fact
Sorry,
that children
Eliza.
are not allowed or encouraged to do this shit anymore, and it's like, oh, it's dangerous to go outside by yourself or whatever.
And
is
then
really bad. It's really
Christmas,
bad for
I
kids.
I am actually
Families.
this whole conversation is making me very thankful as a child that I liked cool rocks. That I just wanted to have cool rocks at one
All
point in my
children
life.
like cool rocks.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
rocks are great.
Every
Well, the thing is
child.
the capital has like encouraged at the point where like parents are afraid to do anything like take their children out into the wild, and you can just buy them a safe experience instead.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not supposed to be safe. It's outside. That's
It-
the point.
Fucking sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get hurt. You're supposed to fall down. Like every kid in my every fucking class that I had in elementary school, there would be a kid who broke a limb and just
Yeah.
had a broken arm for the year, and that
Or
was
just have
fine.
like a big ass scrape on your shin or something because you
It's
fell on your
normal.
bike. Like,
I'm like, they're young, they'll live.
yeah.
That's what they're for. It's what children are for. Their bones don't solidify.
And for being punished.
It's so funny because I just feel like I grew up in an era where like when the internet was like shiny and new as a kid, I was like, I don't fucking care about going outside, but I still had ages like whatever, like 6 to like 12 or 13 or 14 before I became internet addicted. Like I still had that time of not having screens. And I feel
Well-
like kids don't have that as much these days.
Well, yeah, it's because YouTube has become a machine for getting kids addicted to gambling.
Yeah.
Love
You're-
gambling though.
well
I
said.
can't
Like,
get enough.
it's the new like when I was a kid, what you would have used YouTube for was just the TV, and that was still controllable by your parent just going, hey, shut that fucking thing off. They didn't give you a tiny one that had a TV on it, you know?
I mean,
Extra giant TV.
I mean, that's also dependent. I'm sure some kids were allowed to watch as much TV as they wanted, etc. But like the point is that try to tie into what Lucy said. It's so infinitely easier to keep them inside these days, and it is encouraged even, and that blows.
I mean, I want to ask though, like truly, sometimes I'm curious about this. Like, is this our outward perception just informed by some of the goofy phenomena we see online? Like, I also see a not insignificant amount of like viral memes and stuff, just like people actually out in the woods and stuff recounting like funny stories. But there was the sort of dopey teenager kids who were just doing the hangout, and people were saying all these mean-spirited things about them, but they're out in the woods and they're just having fun with their friends. And then the next big hangout they had with people, it was like 40 of their classmates in their peer group, like showing up with them positively. I would say sometimes, like, yeah, it's not always going to be like that, but I wonder how much of it is also just like, are we just kind of getting some confirmation bias just because we see annoying fucking people online? I also see like a lot of YouTube channels that are explicitly about like camping, like they just take off because everyone loves it.
It's great.
First of all, I'm not really sure what you're describing when you are talking about classmates in the woods. I don't know. I have no
Yeah,
idea
that
what
seems like you're
referring to.
referencing a TikTok or something.
Yeah,
I
it was a
also don't-
TikTok. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I also completely missed that.
Number two, yes, we do have like hard data at this point that children
Ooh.
are not spending as much time outside.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not. I think the CDC is not who keeps track of that, but in terms of like child psychology and stuff like that, children are spending significantly less time by themselves. They are constantly being supervised, and they are definitely not being allowed outside as much as they were. I would have to like Google to find the statistics, but they do exist. I have read them.
Ooh, Lucy, what's up?
So one anecdotal thing I want to add to that is like even when I was a kid, I was like in fucking what's it called, Cub Scouts,
Cub Scouts, little Boy Scouts.
and like I mean Boy Scouts fell apart, and I'm sure that part of that has contributed to like children not getting to go out camping. But even when I was in it, never once did we ever take part in any outdoor activity ever.
What?
Yeah, no, I did a little bit of Cub Scouts, and that's ringing a bell. Where it was all indoor, like building the fucking rally car and shit like that. It was not
The
camping.
boxcar, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's
I do
the
see a
issue. So,
picture of
like,
a
I was in
boxcar. It's the
4-H
first
at one
image.
point, and I was in Cub Scouts, and like these are like both organizations that are supposed to get kids outside. And in neither of these organizations, and I lived in the South, where like you think that these would be like where these organizations are strongest and are holding most to like those values of getting kids outside. In both of those instances, never once did we go outside and do something. And I'm sure that's part of what's contributing to that trend.
Mm-hmm.
Because when like the organizations dedicated to this are crumbling and not able to do that, then like is the busy like two parents both working and take their kids camping? Fucking no.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, there's also an element of like, I think the thing I more see colloquially that I was referencing, um, it, with regards to like me growing up, is like I was just able to say, hey, I'm going outside to my parent, and they would just go, all right, cool, come back and be back by like 2 hours, 3 hours. I really hear a lot these days that like that doesn't happen as much with kids. Like you don't just leave your house without a phone unattended.
Because every single
No.
child now has a two-way radio on
Right.
at
Yeah.
all times. If anything, I would be sending my kids out more and for longer and with less supervision because I'm constantly in contact with them.
Make them
And
pick
that
up some
was, I mean,
oat milk
that
on
was
their
the rule when I
fucking
was
way
a
home.
kid. I mean, my mom would be like, hey, either come home or call me by
Mhm.
5 o'clock
Mhm.
and let me know where you are. And as long as I stayed in touch with her, she knew that she didn't have any reason to work.
Mhm. But also, I
That's-
guess like the thing I'm thinking now is like the kids that are potentials for going outside are also contending with having YouTube, etc. Shit that we just didn't have as much of
They
back
have
in the
YouTube
day.
and they also have way more homework now.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a
Way
yeah.
more homework and schoolwork than we used to even
Mhm.
when we were kids. And when we were kids, we had way more homework than our parents did.
Yep. Yeah.
I remember my dad commenting on it, and he actually, one time he got so pissed off at the fucking school because not only did they make us go through the motherfucking DARE program, but they also had something in my tiny, tiny little Pacific Northwest college town, which had absolutely no gang activity whatsoever, except maybe Russian mobsters bringing heroin in over the border, but that had nothing to do with us. They had something called GREAT, which was Gang Resistance Education and Training, to teach all of these 12-year-olds in a, again, liberal college town to not join the Crips. And that's literally what it was. Here's how to avoid joining a gang. When someone walks up to you in school and is like, hey, do you want to join a gang? Don't join the gang. That was it. Well, my dad got so pissed off at me being expected to spend my valuable free time as a child on this. He wrote me an excuse letter, and he sent it. He sent it in with me to school one day to hand to the teachers. That was just like, my daughter's not gonna fucking participate in this. Leave her alone. She's not going to spend her valuable free time on this fucking bullshit. And I remember the teachers got really mad. Like I think they tried to, talk him into it. But
Eat it, teach.
What?
I was telling the teachers to eat it. I pay for it.
That's what he
Get
said.
the fuck.
He was just like, look, I'm the parent. You can't make me do this. This isn't part of the curriculum. It's just some extra bullshit that you are trying to make my child participate in. She's not going to do it. And there's nothing that you can do to me. Like, what are you going to do? Nothing. You can't expel her for it. You can't punish me. You can't levy a fine. She's not going to do it. And actually, that's one of the reasons I have become so confrontational as an adult, because I watched my parents do this to my school several times.
Hell yeah.
Like, a few times the school tried to punish me for various things that were ridiculous and didn't make sense. And my parents were just like, no, you can't actually punish my child for doing this because we're not going to let that happen. And I mean, to a certain extent, my dad is like 6'2" Vietnam veteran. So when he shows up at the office, people don't really argue with him that much. And then my mother was a lawyer. So the combination of the two of them making any sort of appearance at the school and being like, we're not going to do that.
Hell yeah.
People didn't argue with them, which was a really good lesson for me to learn as a kid, and has helped a lot in avoiding people taking advantage of me over time. But I told that long story just to kind of circle back around to the point that kids do not have a lot of free time anymore, and the free time they have, they're like desperate to get any sort of interaction and any sort of dopamine. So you got stuff like TikTok and YouTube and shit like that, and it's horrible. It's not a lot of it is not something that parents are doing wrong. Parents are
Yeah.
trapped in this system with the fucking public schools in the same way that the children are. So
That's what I was just thinking. Like, if I was back that old and someone was like, "Hey, kid, go outside," and I looked down and there was an iPhone in my hand, I don't know if I would go outside. Like
they don't have fucking time to go outside. And
Yeah.
they also don't even have adults telling them how to go outside safely and to have fun when doing so. I mean, it's like we were talking about the blisters. What happens when you go outside? You get cold, you get wet, you get bitten by bugs, you get blisters. You're not wearing the right clothes. You don't know how to feed yourself. You don't know what cool stuff is in the ground if you start digging. I mean, my parents had to teach me, hey, if you go to the beach and you pick up big rocks, you find crabs underneath. That's cool. Someone has to actually teach you to do that stuff. That's not something that kids just know how to do, right? And then the adult in your life has to be like, okay, here's why it's cool to find crabs under rocks. And parents don't have as much time to do that shit anymore. Parents don't have as much free time either. People in general have like significantly less free time. And that's capitalism, like Lucy was saying. That's
right.
They have taken your free time and they are selling it back to you in 10-second increments.
I always think about that when we talk about, this 20, 30 years ago. It's like, what's changed? Like, oh, really just that. Just the fact that capitalism has accelerated. It's segmented a bunch of things. There's a million more things to buy and to consume than there were 30 years ago. That's the
Like
only
the image I'm getting is like fucking, I'm thinking of Daria. The two parents are like always at work.
I love Daria. Oh man.
Like that far back, we are commenting on how this is a problem. And it's just not gotten better in the past 20 years.
Well, and Daria
wait, that was 30 years
Gen
ago.
X. Yeah.
Right.
Daria was not a millennial. She was Gen X, and the Gen X kids were known specifically for being latchkey kids.
Yep.
Because that was the first generation where the majority of two-parent households, both of those parents were working 9 to 5 and then also commuting every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So they were commuting to and from the suburb, which means that parents were kids had to be at school at 7:45 in the morning. So you didn't see your kids in the morning except when you were like desperately trying to get them out of bed and on a school bus or to school. And then the family didn't see each other at all until everyone got home at like 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole generation was raised, even if they were relatively privileged and white and in the suburbs, they did not see their parents very much. And now they kind of, a lot of them, you see them commenting on Facebook. It's like, oh, well, when I was a kid, I took care of myself all afternoon. My parents weren't around at all. This new generation is so entitled, blah, blah, blah. And it's a complete misunderstanding of like not being around your parents ever. That's not good either.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
No, I'm sure
It's not.
it is, but it's not great.
Generally, it can be. It depends, but yeah, no. As a assumed condition.
I was about to say, give an X amount of people in our audience looking to their left and their right, like, oh, is that right?
I don't even mean it in that sense too. Like again, bringing back to what Lucy said about Daria, your parents are always working. When you're around the dinner table, they're alienated.
Yeah.
I'm so good at cooking now.
Yeah, I mean, see, and that's, I think Ruben is like,
I go camp.
one of the exceptions that proves the rule, because I know so many fucking millennials who cannot make toast. They can't.
Oh yeah, it is frightening. I'm so glad I got a job as a kitchen bitch when I was 15 or 16, because that just solved the problem of learning how to cook. But I've encountered people like this. That's honestly
multiple
that's a good
millennials to cook.
There ain't no cooking like
topic
kitchen
for a
cooking.
future ep. In all honesty,
Damn.
speaking of things we have to do yourself.
Even,
yeah,
like
Home ec's been fucking gutted. It's terrible.
I'm like I think I'm the oldest person on the line at the moment, and even when I was in high school, we had a home ec class. It was number 1 optional, and number 2 had been gutted to the point where the only thing we learned how to cook was a apple crumble in the microwave.
Oh wow.
Oh, microwave
even the oven.
rough.
Not even the oven.
That's sad.
We had ovens in the room, but we were not allowed to use them until we had taken like home ec, I don't know, 2 or something.
Oh god.
Which nobody signed up for because it was optional.
Multiple semesters to use the oven.
Yes.
We're talking about teenagers, right?
Correct. Yes. 14, 15-year-olds.
Christ
2 year.
Jesus.
They taught
Year
us two
2.
things which were actually useful. Number one, how to fucking wipe a counter,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that millennials that I know, especially men, sorry, do not know how to do. They cannot wipe a fucking counter. They can't clean a sink. They cannot wipe out a microwave. They just don't think to do it. They never do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the home ec teacher was like, okay, here's how to disinfect a surface in your kitchen using a sponge, and here are different times you can use a paper towel instead of a sponge. Here's how often to get rid of your sponge. Here's how to clean a dish rag in the washing machine. Like, that was useful. That's useful information. Everybody should know how to do that, and many people don't. And then the second thing they taught us was how to use a sewing machine, which I think is why I ended up taking the class in the first place, because I really wanted to learn how to use a sewing machine.
That's
It was
rare.
great. They taught us like really basic. I think they just had us made a stupid little throw pillow that had stuffing in it, and it was super useful. Like, on that basis alone, I borrowed a sewing machine, and I ended up making a prom dress for one of my friends. It wasn't very good, but that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, this is all means of production stuff if you want to get back to it. This is like teaching kids how to use the means of various productive labors, how to use a sewing machine, how to create stuff, how to cook, how to handle tools of various kinds. That's just not, that has been massively de-emphasized in public schooling now.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least in a meaningful way where it's not commoditized a certain way. As of this recording, 2/1/2022, fucking there was this Amazon high school class that had leaked where it's like,
Oh yeah.
you're trying to think of a curriculum for kids to basically do a shtick not unlike that Starbucks indoctrination everyone gets put through, where everyone can go 1 through 5 bullet points about how sick Starbucks is for its growers, its wholesalers, blah, blah, blah. If anyone here has ever dated someone from Starbucks, they could say that shit in their sleep, blindfolded, at gunpoint, not saying it's happened, but it happens. Anyway, and they want to try to apply that curriculum, that sort of HR blob to high schoolers.
It's marketing. It's not even a real class. It's like,
well, I felt like the class was specifically designed to get kids ready for a specific middle management job at Amazon.
Yeah, you can do stuff.
I
like
didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
you can. Like, have you ever heard of like tech centers and the like, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Amazon in seller support.
No. I mean tech center in high school.
Oh, no. Although we did start to have computer classes when I was in high school. It was like kind of a new thing.
This is a little bit different than that. We would have to go to an orbiting tech center thing. So we would have to actually go 20 minutes up to Bad Axe, Michigan.
I see.
A magnet school?
Slightly different. Basically, a few hours out of your day would be specifically at the tech center working in a specific field. And sometimes the way the specific field would work is applied use of the skill. Hairdressers, for example, would operate the boutique and would give out various hair dyes as well as wild haircuts. The first time I got a red mohawk as a teen, I got it from a fellow teen.
Oh, okay. That seems like a more robust home eco type situation or something.
Yes. I was in the Arc and Engineering course, and if I wanted to, at the sort of prior to lunch or snacking time, I could like actually go up to a little store. They would be selling candy, food, snack foods, etc. And you would go through that. The metal shop guys and the car shop guys would basically have to like go through this disassembled go-kart. It kind of more closely resembles a dune buggy, and they would go through that, and they like taught you practical skills that if you wanted to like actually say go to a one of those trade schools, you've already got like pretty decent prereqs And also you'll have like people at the tech center who are like, yeah, no, this person is great at this. You definitely want to, eye on them, et cetera, et cetera. All of that good stuff.
I mean, that's really fortunate. Like, I mean, I relate more to like kind of what Eliza was talking about. Like, to me, when I was growing up, both home ec and shop class were things I saw on TV that did not reflect my schooling experience. I was like, wait, what? They have that in school? And my parents would be like, well, yeah, they used to. And then I would be like, why don't we have that in school? And they'd be like, I don't know, we fucking just moved here a few years ago. And then, like it was the early 90s. Like, I don't know why my public schooling, well, too young for shop class and that. And then when I later went to a private school in Atlanta, they abandoned that shit. They gotten rid of that.
There does seem to be an attitude, and I noticed this I grew up in a town sort of near Seattle, which was, again, very, very, very white. There was a single black student in my entire school district, and he had been adopted from Ethiopia. Where there was this attitude that teaching kids any sort of mechanical aptitude or like working with your hands at all or any sort of fabrication was low class. And none of these students would ever use that information except as like a hobbyist, because all of these kids were going into STEM or into liberal arts.
It also tracks just with the rise in general of like software as a job or anything in that field, I think.
Right.
Where you're sitting where all of a sudden the guy at the desk is making shit tons more money than the guy working with his hands.
Right. So it was completely devalued. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you're never going to use any of that, so let's just take it out of the curriculum year after year. Yeah. Lucy?
So, you saying that about that class strata remind me exactly of my high school experience, where we had two high schools when I first started. There was the new high school that was kind of in the area of the wealthy, that I was lucky to be like in the area of. And then there was another high school, the old one, on the other side of town. And if you wanted to take a shop or car mechanics class at all, it had to be at the old high school. So any of the people who went to the rich high school, they had to take a fucking bus back to the old high school if they wanted to participate in that at all. And then like 2 years later, they opened a third high school, which was a quote unquote tech high school, where it's preparing like the kids for the STEM jobs. So when I think of that class strata, it's exactly like that. And then even later on, I saw that class strata get even worse, because my last year of high school, they decided that your high school wasn't going to be determined by how close you lived to it. It was going to be determined by like a feeder chart. So certain elementary schools would go to certain middle schools.
Oh God, yeah.
And in my particular case, the nice rich high school was a 10-minute bike ride at most, whereas the poorer high school was clear across the other side of town and would have taken like a 20-minute drive on a bad day. But they decided, since I was in one of these poor neighborhoods that would have gone into one of the poor elementary schools, that unless I got a waiver, I would have to go to the school farther from me, because they wanted to create that class divide.
Yeah.
Wild.
That's definitely a political technique you'll see, because I grew up in the South, where there's a huge discrepancy in money getting drained from public schools and put into the private school system. And I haven't heard, I feel like I've heard of something similar like that growing up, where they basically, it's I don't know if it's exactly gerrymandering, but you stop making the location of the school valuable as valuable, or rather the location of a house in proximity to the school is valuable, and you start to manipulate it. Basically say, hey, if you make enough money, your kid gets in this funnel.
I think you're thinking of redlining, Doug.
I guess. I don't. Yeah, I mean, similar concepts, right?
Okay. I mean, yeah, redlining is very similar, because it's just like outlining like what are going to be the poor areas. So it's functionally the same thing, except for you're just applying it to like school districting.
It's just a political means of giving people who can pay for it like a better.
That's exactly what happened to me, but I don't remember why I switched schools. I was right next to a brand new elementary school. When they opened, they were like a full teacher-run faculty that were like their own union or something. It was like a rare school that they had the chance to that they didn't have to listen to like state guidelines. They could teach the curriculum any way they wanted. So shout outs, Miss Matobi. That's my elementary school teacher. Wherever you're at, big ups. She taught me my entire elementary school. We had a mixed fusion grade school, just as a fun school thing.
You went to some kind of experimental school.
They were like preschool to 6 or something.
Old-timey schoolhouse kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds
They're
good to
preschool
me.
to 6, and my teacher, it was great because my teacher saw me failing a class when I switched teachers, and she said, "Fuck that," and she put me back into her class.
That's
and
tight.
she taught an accelerated specialized curriculum where she taught 3rd to 6th grade simultaneously, and so we would teach everyone 6th grade information, and then we would catch up the 3rd graders on special time, and then everyone else would do like book work on their own when she shifted her attention to the younger people to catch them up to the 6th graders, and or 6th graders we put on independent study. They had a lot of cool shit that they would do like that.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I will say I'm in school right now in a cohort model, and I think it's actually fucking dope. Like I'm taking all my classes with the same people throughout the next couple of years, and not that I anticipate going to school much more after this, but I wouldn't want to go back and do it a different way. I think it's a very great conducive model for learning. I know it's harder, obviously harder to facilitate on a public school level, but like that, yeah, it's cool.
I didn't get to the fucking part where they split so when I went to high school, all the student population got cut in half and 90% of people had to go to a new school, and then that was the split part. I didn't fucking get to it. But yeah, they did the same thing. We're like, hey, we got a brand new school, but fuck a bunch of you. If you don't live in certain area codes, you all get sent to a different high school. And they're like one of 4 high schools in the city. So everyone randomly got tossed. Some people immediately started considering moving. I was going to get to go to the new high school because even though I was out of the zip code, there were waivers for any students of our school. They knew the faculty of the new high school in town, and they were actually setting up our curriculum to pass off like in the same month and football it over to that high school. But that fell apart, and a bunch of people got sent to other schools. It was pretty fucked at the time. But I had very little context as a kid. I was more concerned with maybe goosebumps, something. I'm shrugging.
That sort of bureaucratic chaos is something that isn't really talked about very much when people are discussing American public schooling. We talk about sort of systemic failures when we should also be talking about like meta systemic failures, because my school experience was like exactly the same. I ended up going to like 3 or 4 different high schools at the same time, like driving myself around to different classes and shit because of a similar situation. And I mean, we want to wrap up here because we're supposed to be talking about camping, and it's been a while, but yeah, I mean, it's the system itself is all fucked up, and then on top of that, the system is not even being implemented in a reliable way. Like kids are getting shifted around, they're getting sent to weird schools get canceled halfway through. It was just constant chaos.
It's bad time. So thanks for listening. We had I didn't even get to talk about the sleeping
Ruben
bag.
shuffling cards.
Man.
Sleeping bags is
Like,
we'll have
gear.
more. Yeah, dude,
Their
listen.
thermal rating.
We tried to go too hard against the gear, and we didn't get as much gear talk, but that just makes for a gear episode. Because I do love
I'll hold
gear.
everything else
Mr.
back. I'm
Gear,
putting it all
Mr.
away.
Gear is
This-
logged on.
This is
we're not gonna
another
talk
way.
about- we're not
This is
talking about
another
this
gateway
until
for
next time.
for me, the not camper, into camping. Is that like I can obviously contend that gear is fucking sick, and that there's probably some cool stuff to come out of
You
that.
can find. I found a Japanese hatchet for $30, but we're getting into gear. Yeah, we'll get
Ruben
to gear
is
next time.
twirling his Japanese hatchet on camera right now while we record.
Yeah, in the name of
Like knives. We want to talk about what knives you want to bring into the woods with you.
Yeah, sorry everybody.
Ooh, we will. Okay, the next Ruben episode's probably going to be knives episode.
blades.
We're going to study the blade on this podcast.
We'll call it the gear episode, and we'll just go over physical items that I threaten people with, or touch the wood.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below if you'd like to hear about my chisels.
Absolutely.
I'm actually pretty adverse to prepper stuff. In my mind,
Well, yeah,
if
they're
you're just
fucking
generally prepared and has anyone else seen this fucking guy who built the skateboard tunnel into his backyard? It's like, kids, we gotta escape because the compound's being overrun. And they built a little tunnel with skateboards for him and his wife and kids to crawl through.
That's just an excuse to dig a tunnel in the backyard.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's just a fucking ride for your kids.
Oh,
and
then it leads into a cargo container full of prep gear and then idealistically a ramp for a Jeep to plow through a fake wall. I think it was on the History Channel Discovery about preppers ultra strongholds, and they would review them
about it. They're like, this is fun as hell. I love
a sick ass tunnel. Look at my command center.
We all love to build a fort. It's okay.
Stop
I want to build a fort underground. I'm gonna play Fortnite. I have cameras around my house.
Part of this reminds me of like one of my favorite criticisms of preppers, that they are preparing for a very specific scenario that they've concocted in their heads in a sense exactly like that.
Specific. It's so specific every time.
Yeah, like
every single time it's like no water.
I can't wait.
No water, no food, a Jeep, 300 bullets.
It'll be perfect. The moment the apocalypse hits, we'll all be ready with our skateboards to slide into our tunnel.
I can't believe it was like a whole show they did about like we look at your fucking prepper setup. They obviously give them some money to help them build it, and then they review it at the end too and give you a score to be like, hey, you fucked up by the way. You have zero water storage.
I would watch that show.
Yeah, what's that show called? I watched the whole thing. It was really funny. Especially because the preppers would get mad at the experts.
Ooh, that sounds so good. That sounds so good.
They'd fucking
Wait, this
hate
is
it.
just like episodes of Grover getting mad at people criticizing him.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
The voice
is it just
like,
Doomsday Preppers on Nat Geo?
Your food setup a 2 out of 10.
Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so good. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I think it's Doomsday Preppers. I'll check.
Packaged canned items and forgotten a can opener. And then the guy would respond
You're right.
like,
You're
well,
right.
I don't agree with that because, and then, yeah.
The quality of their preparations is graded by the consulting company Practical Preppers, who provide analysis and recommendations for improvements. That fucking rules.
I mean, because it gets to be a little advertisement for their own business, right?
They would also
of course, yeah.
They would also blatantly probably give them the money to make the improvements, and they would do like a check-in on the next episode. It's like, Jeff, is your family gonna die in a cold winter now?
Like fucking kitchen nightmares.
We expanded our water tanks
since we left. Did a Sasquatch kick in your door? And if so, how many rounds did you ventilate him with?
We switched. We got the red tip hollow points, and we can now store 300 gallons of water in a mountainside.
Doomsday Preppers is on the map for sure.
I gotta be sheriff here. I gotta be the Sasquatch kicking in the door.
Good. One dude's plan is just being a survivalist, and his partner, she fucking hates camping, has no skills.
I swear to God, Ruben.
And he was like, you have to eat this bug or we're gonna die, and she wouldn't do it. And all the reviews were just flaming him of like, she has to learn to do shit. This isn't gonna work. You can't make everything for both of you, fucking dickhead.
So I had no idea that Doomsday Preppers had like the rating component to it. That makes it way more like appealing.
Yeah, I want to watch it now.
Show you've ever seen of a dude being like, look at my Jeep. I can drive this Jeep through a fake wall after we escape through this skateboard tunnel. And then the panel comes out and they're like, none of your doors are reinforced and shit. Fucking like your kids can't drive the Jeep to escape. What's the point of the escape vehicle?
Skateboard tunnel is just a thing from Code Lyoko too.
They had to change that. I think I really hope that they said this. I think they said like it's also like a manual Jeep, and both of you can't drive stick. They were just tearing this guy apart. They destroy these people. Please watch it. Before you go camping, watch Doomsday Prepper. Honestly,
Doomsday Preppers and prepping is bullshit because in the future anyone that legitimately survives, given MAD doesn't fully play out. But any sort of societal collapse situation, you want to survive and you want to be the person thriving in the wilderness. You're not the person prepared that stays there with maybe 3-4 months of shit tops. You're the person raiding and killing everyone inside.
Well,
yeah, you're the loot box when you stay home. You're the loot box, and everyone knows.
Yeah,
especially when you're on the show. The show was like, we're gonna try and keep your location secret, but we kind of blew it. Everyone's gonna know where you all are in days.
It's a nice
violence is not a very good survival strategy either. I mean, what you really want to do is have all the skills that you want. You want a water filter, iodine tablets, You want to know how to not get a blister, and you want to be able to avoid being spotted. Like these
You want a
are
high tier.
this is shit that my dad
backpacking
taught me
skill
when
set.
I was a kid, but it wasn't like a prepper thing. It was like, well, here's what the army told me about not getting killed by the Viet Cong. And this information is widely applicable. I have used it in my normal everyday life a lot. Like
Yeah.
It
All
is
my socks
simply,
are wool
that's what I was
socks now.
thinking. It's not prepper shit if it's practical.
Right.
If
It
it
works.
actually is practical, that's the
Well,
bar for
you
me.
know what they say on Drag Race? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Ooh,
They say
love
that?
That's true.
that's
Um,
Max.
On
If you
that-
take anything, hold on, wait 1 second. Hold
God,
on in the
Jesus
door
Christ, Ruben.
before
No.
we close the door. Let me
No,
tell
today
you,
is fuck me day.
try out some wool socks. Let me. I've replaced all my sock springs with wool socks. If you're tired of cold tootsies, no more wool socks. Own bones. That shit's great.
Sounds
Costco's got a
like
good
some
sale.
gear, Ruben. Sounds like
Costco's
gear.
got a good sale. Bass Pro Shop has like 40% wool socks on. Merino
Oh
wool.
my God.
They're like
I'm pulling out the
do
Apollo
you work
cane.
do you work for Costco? What the fuck is going on here?
That was a Bass Pro Shop. Costco's like 30% merino wool. They
Oh
keep
my
changing the
God.
wool amount every year. Make sure you check the wool amount. Make sure the amount's not dropping. You don't want to get too low an amount. You want at least 30%.
Ruben
But if you're going for
worships
hardcore shit, you're
at
probably
the
getting more.
house of the fucking Bass Pro Shops
Get them, Ruben.
pyramid.
Get them.
The cargo
I'm-
chants are great if you're a big person.
Folks, he's in the pocket of Big Wolf right now.
I'm
That's a comfy
I'm,
pocket to be in.
Yeah, it's right. It's probably
Big
pretty
wool
warm.
pocket.
I'm befuddled. I'm beside myself. I've laughed. I've cried. I've seen everything. At the top of the hill, the sound. Now I know what a sound is. I've lived in Washington several times, and I don't know what a sound is. I am permanently concussed, folks. To
Body
that
salt
end,
water. Saltwater.
I'm permanently
Saltwater
concussed
bodying.
because I got out there. I fell on my head several times because I was a child, and I'm barely, in many ways, an adult. But I think back wistfully on times of the past where I'd get outside, mainly with brothers and whatnot. And I don't think it's a bad impulse to chase, to kind of rediscover the place you've had available to you all of this time. Just beyond simple platitudes, it's also just very soothing. And I'm a whiner. I bitch and complain the entire time. Even when I'm doing something good and cool, it's just like, well, we got to dance. I like to sit down. Why do I got to dance at the club? I like the lounge. I'll just go to the lounge. Why did I go to the club? These are the ways in which I bitch. But the great thing about that is once all the bitching is done and you get that all out of your system, you're left with your thoughts, or at least a semblance of quietness, of stillness, and disciplining yourself to enjoying stillness, not getting quick dopamine releases. I feel is essential to being the modern person, and maybe sometimes goes against the grain of what is considered a modern person. I couldn't imagine being a kid right now and doing as much tooth surgery on Elsa on my smartphone as my nieces and nephews do. I hate it. Maybe ISIS was right on that front. We'll never know. On that note, my name is Michelle Perez. This is the Pig Iron Podcast, no longer the Workinonit podcast. We doff our cap to you, old name, but Pig Iron is the new hotness. We are always sort of malleable and changing and can be molded into new things. And by gosh, that's the essence of DIY to me. So that's kind of my rationale for choosing the name. On that note, again, I'm Michelle Perez. As always, I'm joined by my buddy Ruben, my buddy Jake, my buddy Eliza, and incoming buddy Lucy for guesting today. I appreciate it. And coming on short notice, apropos of nothing. You're a real good sport. Everyone, take it easy and have a great night.